Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of BIM After Dark Live. Man, I hope everyone's doing well today. Sorry if that was a little delayed intro there. The streaming was being a little strange, so I apologize. I'll try to edit that out in the replay. But how's everyone doing today? Thank you for joining me. This is going to be a fun episode. Hey Eric, John, what's up? What's up? Sitting here with the Trimble X7, John. Well, we're not going to get that crazy with the point clouds, but we are going to talk about point clouds. So thank you for joining me today. As I mentioned, this is another episode of BIM After Dark Live, a weekly live stream here on YouTube where I talk about BIM, Revit, and really any related software in the industry. We kind of geek out. Sometimes there's guests, sometimes it's just me, sometimes it's more tutorials, sometimes it's more presentations, but thank you for joining me. This is episode 42, believe it or not. The first episode was, I believe, March of last year, back when the quarantine started, and it started as a happy hour. And so I'm pretty excited. I like doing the 7:30 ones, 7:30 Eastern time, because I get to have a cocktail instead of a coffee. Shamila, awesome, great to have you here. Robin Frost is here as well. Today's episode is going to be fun. I have sort of an agenda that I wrote out just to kind of get through it, but this is one of those things where if you followed me over the years, when I experience a new software or technology that I get all pumped about and geek out about, I just want to share it. And so that's what I'm going to do today. And hopefully you guys will find some value in it. And as with everything that I do, I always want to find a reason for these technologies, as in finding some value and some uses for them. VR, you've seen some of my VR presentations. It's not, the whole idea was not just to be a gimmick, but to be useful, a useful tool. So that's kind of what I'm doing here today. So we're going to talk about drones, scanning with drones, and then using them in Revit, and sort of that workflow and some of the tools and technologies that I learned in the brief time that I've used them. I will completely be honest and upfront with you guys. I'm nowhere near an expert on this, but I've geeked out on it hard enough that I'm willing to share, and just excited enough to just talk about this new sort of workflow and process that I figured out, and some of the cool technologies. Plus, it's always fun stuff. And remember, this is a live stream. I will be checking out the chat, and I fully encourage you guys to ask questions, chit chat, and interact with me. I know it's through chat and I'm on video, but having 180 people on a Zoom call would probably be a little crazy. And I know we're all kind of zoomed out anyways. So thank you for joining me again. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel here on YouTube, so that you get Bing and hit the notification bell, of course, so you get notified when we go live. Usually it's Thursdays. You can also head on over to bimafterdark.com, sign up for my mailing list, and you'll get an email to know when it's coming. Before we jump into it, if you guys follow me on Twitter, if not, check me out on Twitter at the Revit Kid. I posted a little picture of the drone sitting on this BIM box behind me. I want to thank BIM Box for sponsoring this episode. I'm going to quickly roll a reel so you guys can see what BIM Box is all about and talk about it real quick before we jump into the content: drones, scanning, and Revit. So let's roll it. So there you have it. BIM Box makes computers, laptops, and desktops that have been designed, optimized, and created for us, for Revit users. As you saw, I have the Striker 2 desktop behind me. I also have the Striker M15 laptop right here, and these things are beasts. They crank on Revit. They're designed for Revit. I know the question I've gotten the most over the last 12 plus years of blogging and producing content for Revit is, what is the best laptop for Revit, or what is the best computer for Revit? And now I can honestly tell you it's BIM Box. So if you're interested, head on over to sales@bimboxusa.com and shoot them an email. Let them know that Jeff, you learn about him from Jeff. You can head on over to bimbox.bimafterdark.com and find out more. A couple things to know. Every PC you get from them, it comes with a 3-year warranty. They have awesome customer support. And they ship and deliver any size order in 10 to 14 days. Anyone who's ordered a laptop before knows that that's usually not the case, or a desktop for that matter. So Buck and his crew are awesome. Make sure you reach out to them. Let them know that you learned about them here, and I want to thank them for sponsoring this episode. I will in the future be doing a more in-depth review of some of their PCs, so look forward to that. But for now, take my word for it. These things are monsters, and if not, reach out to the team and they'll tell you more about it. So, Bill Bev, thanks for joining me, man. You were not late. You're perfectly on time, dude. Bill's loving his MacBook Air M1. Dude, I will tell you that I was a Mac. I mean, I have an Apple laptop, iPad, or iPhone, iPad, all that stuff. I just couldn't handle boot camping all the time on my laptop to run Revit. So I would not say that it's a bad laptop. I just wouldn't use it for Revit. All right. Robin Frost is days away from her BIM Box Osprey, or his BIM Box Osprey. Awesome, dude. That is so cool. And fitting, I believe the Osprey has been designed for dealing with point clouds and laser scans. So kind of fitting that you mentioned it here on this episode. So yeah, that's fantastic. Great. What we got? We got some people from Turkey. Caesar, what's up, man? Thanks for joining us. All right. So again, this is live, so feel free to chat with me. I love interacting with you guys. That's why I do this live. Otherwise, I could just record this and post it on YouTube, right? So today we're going to be talking about drones, and we can talk about drones and Revit, how we can interact with them, and so on and so forth. And so a little backstory for those of you that don't know my history or my Scour just asked, will it run boot camp with the M1? I actually have no idea. Bill maybe be able to ask that if an Apple can run boot camp with the M1 processor. I have no idea. But a little backstory on this whole drone ideal is, for those of you that don't know, my full-time gig is with Turner Construction. And, one of the things that's been floating around quite a bit is the utilization of drones on job sites and for construction, and what it is that we can do with them, what are the limitations, what are the risks, et cetera, et cetera. And so for a few years now, it's just been kind of floating around. Some business units have been taken charge of it. Some have been a little more hesitant to use it. But long story short, for the last year or so, my managers have been asking sort of, what is it we can do with these things, and look into drones and blah, blah, blah. Well, fast forward to now, on the work side of things, the policies have relaxed a little bit. The FAA has relaxed a little bit. And we also have a couple business units. I'd like to reach out and say a huge thanks to Gary Chapman, who's my counterpart in the Nashville office for Turner. He's been spearheading some of this drone stuff and helping me out with some of the technology. So thanks, dude, if you watch this in the future, or watching it now. I don't know if you're out there. Maybe you are. But anyways, so we're finally at a point where it's like this, to me, 2021 for me personally is going to be the year of the drone. Maybe it's also because we're quarantining and I can fly a drone without seeing anybody. I don't know. But to sort of get things rolling, I also, you guys, if you followed me these episodes, the last 42 episodes, you know that I'm in the process of building an addition to my home right here where I'm sitting. And so being able to sort of general contract that at the same time as being the architect, at the same time as sort of overseeing, blah, blah, blah. So I got to kind of combine all of the experience and skill sets that I have. And so I thought, hey, I should just buy a drone and try it out here. So this right here is the drone. Okay, so this, let me try and hold it out a little better there. And of course, this is, this isn't a Turner drone. As I mentioned, this is a personal drone, and so I didn't want to spend $2,000 or $3,000 on it. So this is a DJI Mavic Air. Mavic Air. It is not the Mavic Air 2, which just came out. It's the Mavic Air, and so feel free to look it up. I'll post links to it on the here in the chat, and also in the description afterwards. Part of what I wanted to test here was not only just having a drone and being able to fly it around, because it's freaking fun as hell, is also, does it have to be a $4,000 drone? Does it have to be an $8,000 drone? Like, what can we get out of using this drone? Actually, I picked it up for $600 on a Black Friday sale, and that was the Fly More pack, which came with 3 extra batteries and some connectors and all this other stuff. So I mean, this is relative. It's under $1,000. I don't even know what it is now, if you don't get the Fly More pack or whatever. So it's not, it's not really that expensive when you think about it. And if you've ever flown one of these, it is an incredible piece of technology. The other thing is, notice how small it is, which is kind of surprising too. It folds. It folds up into your, I guess if you have really big pockets, you could call it pocket size. You know, you can see it folds up pretty tight. So, I mean, to me, just as a technology geek, super impressed with this thing. It's super easy to fly. It stays in place great. It's got some awesome features. I don't need to go. I don't want this to be a sort of rundown of drone technology and all the things that are a part of it. But there are some things to know about when you're getting a cheaper drone to do this stuff. So one thing is some of the older or cheaper drones may not interact with some of the software used for mapping. So the software we're actually going to use today, and I'm going to show you, is called Drone Deploy. Okay. And my particular drone actually does not work with the Drone Deploy app, so I cannot use it to automate missions and actually fly the drone. However, it has the ability to collect data and images and videos from the drone if I take them myself. And there are other apps that can fly automated flights, and so there is sort of a disconnect there. But I did not want to spend $3,000 to $4,000, so I wanted to see what limits I could push using a $600 drone and a copy of Revit, and see where it goes from here. Before I jump in, I noticed there's quite a few little chats there. Bill has said, "Are you thinking of doing this point cloud stuff? You will need more batteries." Yes, great point, Bill. So one thing, anyone who's really interested in getting into using drones and stuff, is that the battery life is still pretty limited. I don't remember. I probably got 15-20 minutes maybe out of a manual flight, taking pictures every 2 seconds if you do videos and stuff like that. And you know, the newer drones are getting a little more. I think the 30 to 35 minute range per battery. And so yeah, I mean, the battery life is something you got to keep into, and I think the more you spend, the bigger the drone, the bigger the battery, etc. So great point, Bill. Usually these flights that I'm going to talk about here, usually it's one full flight taking, let's say, 400 to 600 pictures of this project, which is a small project, was one full battery essentially. Okay, so I got the drone. I'm like, all right, what do I do with this thing now? So the first thing I did is I just flew it. And anyone who's ever flown a drone, I think you'll know what I'm talking about when when I say, like, it is so cool. I mean, having RC cars as a kid and planes and helicopters and stuff, this is just like the technology and the computing in this thing to stay in place and adjust to wind, and it's just using your phone. I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal. So what I decided to do is I'll quickly just share with you guys the first flight. Here's my beautiful son, Jacob. And as you can see, he's either impressed or scared, or not. I'm not really sure what his emotions are when he's looking at this, but this is the one of the first flights. This is the video. I think he's a little more scared than anything else. And so you see here, I go flying up. This is at my house, so just kind of cool. And I think this gives you an idea. Remember, this is my first flight, so this is literally the first time I ever. There I am there. So this is the first time I ever flew a drone in my entire life. And so what this is my dog too. This is Charlie and my wife Melissa. So what's really neat about this is, it's a $600 drone. The quality is impressive, but also the fact that I can just throw this thing on my phone, launch it up like this, and fly it with little to no training or learning is absolutely incredible. Obviously, making smoother videos and doing all that, that's a whole nother thing. But this just gives you an idea of what right out of the box these things create. And so this is just a video. There's me flying it. That's actually where the addition on the house is going to go. You can see my little test pit and a few other things. So pretty neat, right? I mean, this is, when you think about what quality you're getting out of a 2-year-old drone worth $600, pretty cool, right? So that was awesome. I got to fly the thing. I got to experience the actual flying. So I took some videos, took some pictures, pretty sweet. And then I became obsessed with, like, all right, and I know I can do some things with this just flying around my site. Let me know if you guys are getting too nauseous. Sorry, but but I do like showing this. I think it is pretty neat to see the quality. There's the roof that's getting replaced, as you can see on the house. But so now I see this. It's cool. It's easy to use. The technology is impressive, right? It's windy. And John, no, there wasn't a ton of wind that day, but believe it or not, the DJIs are impressively good at tracking with the wind. This is a small one, so yeah, if I went outside today or tomorrow when there's a 35-mile-an-hour gust, I have a feeling that it would be a lot harder to track. But 15 to 20 mile-an-hour gusts, maybe is when you start seeing it. But yeah, this wasn't a super windy day, obviously. So pretty cool, right? And so then I started really studying, and then that's when I reached out to the coworker of mine who, you guys just disappeared. A coworker of mine who I knew was sort of doing these things, and started talking about this app called Drone Deploy and how it can work. And I thought, okay, well, I know he's using a $4,000 professional drone. Can I do these things with a $600 drone? So I started studying how mapping works and all this other stuff. And the reality is you can. And so what I did is just started teaching myself a little bit about how you map an object, as well as how you would map a site. And if anyone familiar with photogrammetry knows that, like if you used Recap Photo or something like that, it's really just a matter of getting the right amount of photos, the overlap of the photos, and being able to stitch them together. And so, I at first I tried a planned mission. So anyone who doesn't know what that means, it means you on the computer, you essentially map out your plan and let the drone, it basically flies itself. And so that works fine for like satellite images looking down on a site. But as you saw from that, even from that quick video, there's a lot of trees around my house, and they're pretty low. They're like overhanging the house, and there's like 60 to 80 feet range. And so I couldn't really get a planned mission to circle the house comfortably, because I wasn't confident enough in my abilities to automatically make the drone do that. So I basically flew these flights manually. So initially I thought, oh, it's a video that it does, but it actually needs pictures. So on the drone, it's pretty simple. You can set the drone to take a picture every 2 seconds, every 4 seconds, every 5 seconds, etc. And you just take a ton of pictures, right? So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to open up. I had them open. I don't know why they're not open now. I'm going to open up my big folder here and show you guys what that looks like. All right, so here, and the reason I'm sort of, oops, I just hit the subscribe again on you guys, sorry. The reason I'm walking through this is because this isn't something I've been doing for like 2 years. Like, this is literally the pictures I'm about to show you right here. These pictures, these are literally the first time I ever tried mapping using this software and using this drone. All right, so then I just went up, and I'll only click through a couple of them so you can see. So this was a picture every 2 seconds, right? And so I was just playing around with the gimbal and moving around, and I basically just flew. If I zoom down, I basically just flew around the house and orbited. And then zoomed in and zoomed out and tried to get as many faces as I can. And then I went up and I did, sort of straight down views, and I went all around the house. And so all in all, I came up with about 607 images, I think, on this flight. And to go back to Bill's point of the battery life, I think each one of these flights that I'm talking about, the battery basically died at the end of the flight. Is kind of when I ended the flight. I probably would have just flown forever because they're so much fun. But as you can see, I even zoomed in. So here's actually progress. This is where the addition is. You can see there's the excavation, there's the foundation walls, and just to give you a sense of the pictures, and because then when you see the model, you're going to be, if you're like me, you're going to be extremely impressed and extremely excited to try this yourself. So you can see the images themselves, yeah. So John Gray just asked, is this with the stock camera on the drone? Yes. So as I mentioned, it's pretty impressive what was coming out of these. So these are actually 4056 by 2280, so they're 4K images. I don't even know if I cranked it up all the way. I didn't mess with the camera settings other than turning the take a picture every 2 seconds thing on. I just haven't gone that far. I know there's tons of settings in the app when you're flying the drone, but yeah. So the video and the pictures are from the stock camera that comes on again, this is the Mavic Air. There's lots of different drones out there, but this is just the one that I decided to choose. So I have those pictures, right? And then now I'm going to introduce you guys to Drone Deploy. And so Drone Deploy is a web-based service and application that creates and stitches together these images to create maps for you, as well as models for you. And so it is what we use at Turner now. I believe there's a free trial of it. But feel free to look at go over to dronedeploy.com and check it out. But what amazes me is how how well it stitched and created these maps and these models from it. So what I'm going to do now is flip on over to here. So this is drone deploy. And as you can see, if I zoom in here, right, this is a stitched together sitemap of that project, right? So if I zoom in, you can see there's the addition there. So this app alone, and I'm trying to, again, I have a rough agenda, and I'm trying to figure, I just kind of want to piece together the process and just show you some of the tools is really the goal today. And so this tool itself, I mean, we could probably do an entire episode, and maybe I'll have my colleague come on, or someone from Drone Deploy come on and just do an entire episode on all the cool stuff you can do with this program. But I'm just going to highlight the stuff that I learned in the last like month or so. So as you can see, here's the map overlaid on my satellite image, right? So you can see the quality compared to like a Google map. Just there's the line there, right, of the property. You could do a couple things. You could overlay maps. So I overlaid my B100 drawing, which is pretty awesome, right? So there you can see, right? You can see my property lines. If I zoom in, look at there's the addition. There's the deck. There's the existing house. There's my septic. It's kind of cool to see how close I put up some cones and some caution tape around for when the cement guy came in, and God darn it, thankfully I did, because those guys are monsters with those trucks. But you can see how close I was to hitting the septic, which is pretty sweet. And there's the pile of gravel. There's my shed. So pretty cool. I mean, this is just a PDF from the surveyor that I was able to throw in here. And then I also said, all right, well, what if I bring in a foundation plan? So there's the foundation plan from Revit. This is just the PDF, actually. I believe you can bring in a DWF, DWFX, maybe an ACAD. There's a few file tapes you can bring in. But pretty cool to see the accuracy. I mean, look how close that thing is to what it is, which is pretty sweet. Hi from Turkey. Hey, what's going on? Muammar? Huh. Chris asked, where did I get the property lines? This is from a survey drawing. This is from the B100 drawing. So I was able to bring it in, and you can see there's my property lines going around the house, and you can see there's my driveway. So it's pretty close. I mean, pretty impressive how close it is. So you could do things like that. In the plan, you could annotate, you could draw, you could do a couple different things. But Isaiah asked, do you need high resolution images for mapping? The images I'm using here, obviously the higher the resolution, the better, right? It'll take longer to process and longer to upload, but I'm assuming the higher the resolution, just like anything else, even with laser scanning, the better the results are going to be. These images and what you're seeing from these maps today are from this stock camera, which, as I mentioned before, was like 4,000 by 2,500. So I guess they're 4K images. So they're high resolution, but really not that high when you think about a camera, I guess. But what you'll see is that this looks pretty cool, right? Not too bad. Let me show you a couple things that they do on here. So there's this little thing that's called plant health, which I assume is just looking at the color of green versus non-green and gives you this weird predator looking image. Anyone who's seen the movie Predator? So that's kind of cool, I guess. I don't know. I haven't found much use for that, but I guess for agriculture, if they're scanning over huge areas of fields, being able to see that. Elevation's pretty cool. So it gives you this heat map of elevations, and you could see over here it's telling you the highs and lows in that map. So there is a bar that's giving you highs and lows, which is pretty cool. And what I'll show you is it's surprisingly accurate for photogrammetry, and that's what I'm going to get into when I show you Revit. And then last but not least, there's sort of a cut fill here, which depends on how you calibrate. We'll tell you. I didn't calibrate this model, but I'll show you a little more. But then what's really cool about it is if I was to draw this line over here, right? So I just drew a measurement line, it's called, and clicked the checkbox. You'll notice it's telling me the distance, but look at this. See in my left-hand screen here, it's showing this profile. So then you're like, huh. It's telling you that the peak of the house, the lower angle of the house, and as I drag along this line, it's telling me the heights. Well, let me answer your questions before I fly into this and blow your minds. I see there's a couple questions here. So, Shamila just said, "How about I strap my iPhone 12?" You could try it. Chris asked, "Are the property lines publicly listed?" No, those are from a surveyor, Chris. I mean, you could bring in some property lines, but those are from a survey of my property. In interior dark spaces, this color maps are useful. Very true. Yep. What did it cost for the processing? We have an enterprise license, so there's a one-time fee that we pay yearly or monthly per business unit. I believe if you go on Drone Deploy's website, they have individual business. They have different levels of it. So there's no cost of the processing for us. The way I don't know if there's limits on the other ones. I honestly haven't looked. I think it's a monthly charge for the use of it, and I don't know if they charge you for each process. The processing itself didn't take too long. The more images, obviously, the longer it takes. But I think maybe an hour or so we got it back. Let's see, a lot of questions, guys. Awesome. How does information get from different from laser scanning? Well, it's not nearly as accurate as laser scanning. I could tell you that for sure. It is photogrammetry, so it's using photos, stitching them together. I'm assuming you can get pretty accurate with higher quality and really good flight plans and processing, but it's definitely not nearly as accurate as laser scanning. So don't think that right now. But depending on what you're trying to do, it may be enough. And so let's see. One last question here. ACAD Gatsu, what's up? Said, Jeff, do you have a drone pilot's license, or are you planning to get one? Yes, I'm planning to get one. The license, it's not a license. It's more of a certificate for just a part of an FAA license, and it's really pretty minute. It's essentially showing you, teaching you how to read maps. Basically, it's not crazy. I just have not gotten it yet. I don't need it to fly over my house to do this. In theory, you need it for any commercial work. So once we fly them personally, with Turner, I will need that license, that certification. So part 104 or whatever, section 104, I don't know. Bill said he uses Drone Deploy for his missions. It is scary cool, yes. So yes, the drones do have auto return to homes and some things, but yes, automated missions are terrifying, especially in an area like this with a ton of trees. The only time I've used the automated mission is to fly up over the trees and do like a grid pattern. And so for just to show you guys, so this app does allow you to fly missions. And so if I went to fly, you could see. So what this is doing, this is a grid over the site. And so it starts over here, and it'll actually just pan. It'll follow this automatically taking photos for the creation of maps. You can set the altitude, you can set the speed, you can set all kinds of cool stuff. And so for high quality aerial, to make sure there's right overlaps, that's the way to do it. But zooming down to get a model of a building, especially a house sitting in the middle of trees, you almost have to fly manually. There is a couple things like a point of interest that the drone has, so it'll stay locked on while you're flying around, but you almost have to fly it manually, otherwise you will probably crash into a tree. And I could tell you my drone, I'm sure other drones have different ones, but my drone only has front and back collision control. So it'll tell you if it's about to hit something in the front, it'll tell you if it's about to hit something in the back, but it doesn't have side. So a couple more questions. Derek asked, does the processing calculate the elevation from photos, or is there LiDAR detection in terms of points? I believe it uses, I don't know for sure, I believe it uses GPS mixed with the photos themselves and then sets of elevation. You have the ability to set an elevation in the program afterwards. Do I have it insured? My personal drone, I just have a care thing with DJI, so I guess that's insured. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do when we get the one for Turner, but awesome. All right, so now, pretty cool, right? We have this awesome high resolution map, and that's really neat. I mean, the stuff that we're getting out of it in those maps, and if I zoom in here, check this out. This is actually now that you can see the slab is poured, so this is a little bit later on. This is the next flight. So I'm actually going to go back to the old flight first so that we can see the progress. So there's the first flight, and then the second flight. You can see I learned a little more. I was able to zoom in more. I got a higher resolution map, which is pretty cool. But what's really, really neat is this little button up here called Model. So this is all map. If I click Model, watch this. And hopefully it doesn't take forever because I'm streaming to YouTube as well. Now check this out. This now is the three-dimensional model of my house. Created 100% from a 15-minute flight from a $600 drone onto an application that I think personally uses $100 a month. Don't quote me on that. Just go check out their website. But Yeah, so Bill just said it uses GPS for the first elevation. Exactly, yeah. So it's using, I assumed it was using the GPS. So check this out. What's really cool is if I zoom into some of these corners, it's absolutely incredible how well it maps this. Like, look at this foundation wall. Let me see if I can get in there for you guys. Look at that foundation. I'm inside the hole of the foundation. That is bonkers. That when I saw this is when and this was before I even tried using it with Revit or anything. This is when I geeked out, and I'm sure a lot of you are too, and said there is so much potential here. If not, this is still just the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life, right? I mean, this is just nuts. And so you could see I'm actually, there's my waterproofing. I mean, this is just nutsos, right? I mean, the fact that it was able to do this, and this was remember, this was my first mapping flight I ever took, right? So I'm only imagining that it'll just get better as I learn more about the program. But so what can you do with this now? Well, first of all, just absorb and absorb that, how cool that is, right? Absorb it. Because I know when I first saw it and when I show people, it's like, that's incredible. So what can you do with this? Well, there's a few things. Obviously, you have a model that you can check things out. Whoa, sorry, I just went a little nuts there. It's relatively to scale. As I mentioned, it's not extremely accurate like a laser scan, but things like heights and lengths, are pretty close. If I quickly snap a distance here, I'll just go across the whole house for fun. Oops, let me click the checkbox here. You could see, there's the height, 17 feet all the way across there, which is pretty nice. The length, 55 feet. The length of my house is about 50 feet even. So as you notice on each side, I went over. So as you can see, it's fairly accurate. And that was just me not, finagling the click. So you could do things within the program itself, which is really cool. So one thing that I think is pretty neat, and I actually used, is volume calculations. So if I click volume right here, and so this is my gravel, and so no joke, I did this to see how accurate it was to what I knew was there and what was left. I'm just circling the gravel, and now look at this. It's telling me the volume of that pile, right? And you could set the base point of this volume for the cut fill. You could see I could say I want this to be the lowest point of my piece. I want this to be the average. I want this to be custom, so I can say I want this to be from -2 up or from whatever, but you get the idea. So pretty freaking neat, right? I mean, and then the graphic is just so cool. I mean, how cool does that look? But again, think about how this was created. This was a 10-minute flight from a $600 drone uploaded to the software. I mean, the capability and what's happening just in this app alone is bonkers. It's driving me, and you could obviously do things like you could do areas. So if I wanted to quickly check, oops, I just went way into the house there. If I wanted to quickly check the area here, check this out. It's doing area, but it's doing area based on the geometry that it's seeing, which is pretty wild. Actually, pretty neat, right? So I hope you guys are all like, wow, that's so freaking cool. Karen just asked, are you measuring used by drone deploy or by Revit? I'm measuring in drone deploy, and this is what's really cool. Excuse me. Ooh, I got too excited there. What you're seeing here is, is the accuracy. Like I said, my house is actually 50 feet long because I measured it. I did a existing conditions measure. I built a Revit model of it already. I know how long the house is. And then this map was just created using the GPS coordination, the GPS locations of the photos and their mapping processing engine. And it's pretty much exactly to scale, right? Another thing which is really neat is if I was to click my photos here. So I can see any of my photos on the left-hand side, so I can jump into a photo, but I also can see where they were taken. So see that there? So I took a whole bunch up here, and then I took a whole bunch down here. And if I wanted to actually see one of those photos, I can just click into it and it opens the photo, which is freaking wild, right? So, I mean, I'm hoping if you're like me, just by me showing you this, you're seeing all the possibilities of just this alone, right? This is just, there's huge possibilities here. And so, like I said, I didn't want this to be an entire drone deploy episode. We can definitely, if you're interested in it, I can definitely have some folks come on who know even more about it than me. But I just want to show you the cool stuff that I thought was neat right away. So let me just remove this area, get rid of some of these lines so it's not wild on us. Okay. So then I'm like, okay, this is pretty sweet. So I can, oh, sorry, I just see a couple questions there. Can you define the detail, as in, would rails appear, for example? Could they end up ignored? No. The way you define the detail is if you don't take a picture of it, it's not going to show up. So, for example, if I go behind my shed here, whoa. I'm still getting used to navigation on this. If I go behind my shed, notice how the porta potty disappears? Well, that's because I didn't fly back there. And the car, the Nissan over there, goes nuts, right? So no, you're not defining the detail. It's defining the detail based on the photos you took. And the more photos, the higher resolution, the more detail you're going to get. ACAD just said you can do the photogrammetry part for free if you don't need or want to pay for drone deploy features. Yeah, there are other softwares, and I have tried a few of them. I will tell you, the features in drone deploy are awesome. The photogrammetry the photogrammetry itself is extremely impressive. I've tried Hive Mapper, and I was not impressed with what came out of it. But now, to show you sort of the icing on top is, if I hit point cloud here, what you'll see is it's going to show you the point cloud that was created using the photogrammetry, which is then what we're seeing there. And so this is really cool because now you're looking at this and you've got essentially a point cloud similar to what you would have from a laser scan. Again, out of a 15-minute flight from a $600 drone. And you know that it's not as accurate as laser scan, but it's pretty close. So what I wanted to do is, okay, I got a point cloud. What can I do with this thing now? Okay, so I'm going to let this load a little bit because it's going through. If I zoom in, you get the point. There's dozens of points, right? If I go over here in drone deploy and I hit export, you have a bunch of options for exporting. So you can have an OBJ, which, by the way, is a completely textured and meshed OBJ. So you can bring it into Lumion or Twinmotion, and it looks just like it does in drone deploy. Super cool there. I accidentally deleted my OBJ file, so I was going to show that tonight, but I accidentally deleted it, so try that on your own. But I also have the ability to do cut fills and then digital terrain models, and then I have the ability to do point clouds. And the point clouds can come out as LiDAR, which is LAS files, or recap files. So even if you don't have recap, you can export as a recap file, and then guess what? Put it in Revit, because Revit brings in recap files. By the way, it doesn't bring in LAS files, which is super annoying for point clouds. So you have to kind of go to recap. But so I'm like, this is fantastic. And so I immediately exported and I tried some things out. And so what I'm going to do is jump into Revit now and show you what this looks like. And I'll explain a couple things. If you try this, that'll help you out a little bit. So here's my model of the house, as you can see. And of course, Revit wants to save. So let us hit 3D view, and there's a point cloud. Let me just quickly show you what happens. So the point cloud, as you can see, is looking pretty good. I will tell you that I built the Revit model first, and so the coordinates and the location of everything was off when the point cloud came in. So I did move the point cloud to align with the corners of the building. Ideally, I guess there is a way that if you brought the point cloud in first, you could even use your Revit model, true north, and set up the survey point and everything if you really wanted to with it. But I full disclosure, I did have to move it over a little bit. And when I first brought it in, so this is the second scan. Okay, so if I look down in here, you can see if I zoom in, there's a point cloud there. Okay, so this is the second scan. So let me show you what the first scan looked like when I brought it in. I couldn't figure out what was going on. All right, so here's the first scan. And if I go and I zoom in, you'll notice the building looks a little weird. And hopefully you can see that. But it's squat, it's shallow, something wasn't right? And so I'm scaling it, I'm moving it, I'm rotating it. I couldn't figure it out. Even in section, I went to a section and I couldn't figure out. Hold on. I couldn't figure out what was going on here. So let me turn on that point cloud. Okay. So as you can see, something's not looking right. This is actually a section through the point cloud, which, by the way, in and of itself is freaking wild that I could do this. And you can see even here, here's the I go to wireframe. Yeah, here's the point cloud right there. And so I'm sitting there trying to figure this out, and thankfully the drone deploy people were very nice with support. And for anyone who tries to do this, there are these things called map projections, and I don't know if every software that creates these photogrammetries and these maps uses it, but these make a big difference on how you bring out your point clouds. So what I will tell you is, if you have a local EPSG code to export to, use the local code. So I exported to a Connecticut-based code the second time around, and as you saw the second time around, if I flip out the point clouds, this thing was almost perfect. So check this out. Even the slab, there's the slab edge, right? There's my foundation wall. There's the little step in the split level. There's my roof edge. There's my roof. There's my roof. And there we go. Right? Look at that thing. Wild. So what can you do with some of these things, right? There's here we go. If I zoom in here, I just love seeing the dirt piles and stuff and seeing the foundation. So a couple things. I mean, first of all, just bringing them in and being able to use these point clouds within your file is cool in and of itself. And I guess if you got really good at it, you can use this. For example, we do a lot of context modeling of even just the blocks around the building that we're doing. And if you don't have a good Google map of it, you can fly around and you can get these little models that you could use to just extrude shapes and make your context, right? You can use them as reference like I'm doing here. QA/QC is possible, right? Here's a perfect example, and this is pretty cool. Sorry, let me turn off the pinned selection so you guys don't get all that craziness. So if you look closely, there's these little cones. Hopefully you can see those to the left of these columns. So that's pretty neat. Those cones represent the post bases, and we actually had to shift them because, of course, my septic tank pipe happened to be exactly where one of the columns was, because 3 columns and 40 feet, and it's right in the middle of it. But right away you can see it's pretty neat. If this was a larger job, you can quickly QA/QC some things and why things may not be in the right location, where they are, etc. I mean, it's absolutely wild. You can dimension, you can check dimensions, you can use them for references, etc. So let me real quick. And by the way, let me just jump back in. If you don't know, once you export the recap file, it's easy in easy in Revit as going to insert, point cloud, and then selecting your recap file. Pretty much it. That's it. So it'll come in. These come pre-registered. You're good to go, and the recap files are already good to go. So that's it. That's how you can get the thing into Revit. Pretty wild. Ruben said that is rad. It is rad. Let me see. Bill just said it takes days to create point clouds. Took 4 days on my Ryzen for 970 photos. Yes, so that's a good point. If you were trying to develop and process the point clouds locally, it would take days sometimes, depending on your machine. And so, as I mentioned, some of these, the point clouds themselves, it might have taken a couple hours once I clicked export and I got the email from Drone Deploy, but still getting these results. And by the way, this is right now, it's a section box. Let me just show the whole point cloud. So you can see it does a pretty good job too of even the context surrounding it. That's probably pretty small on me. Right, even the front of the house where I zoomed in. And so this was in a matter of hours. I got the email with the point cloud ready to go. So pretty awesome. Let's see, any Leica integration? I don't know. Honestly, that's a question for Drone Deploy. Their support has been great for us. I mean, I know we have an enterprise license, but I'm assuming they have good support for everyone. And you could ask them. I know there's Leica support on some drones, and so maybe there's the ability. But I mean, I know what I've been doing. It's photogrammetry wise, so I'm not really sure if there's a separate piece of it. Ruben said, "How much should we charge clients for this?" That's completely up to you. If you want to go down the road of additional services, that's your ball game. Let's see, Joe Buchek. What's up, Joe? How you doing, man? You could just build the edition in virtual reality and convince your family that it actually exists. I know that'd be right. I kind of want the edition though. So never imported a point cloud. Novice question: does it remain a raster image, not a Revit family? it is not a raster image. It is a link. It is a point cloud. So what you're seeing is all of the points. So if I zoom in, you'll see the points disappear. If I go to VG and I go to point clouds, you can see it's actually a link. And you can see the color mode is RBG. And so you do have different color modes depending on what's built into your laser scan. So if I do, I don't even know if this will do it. Let's see. Yeah, there's elevation. So based on elevation, it's showing you different things. Based on intensity, I don't know about that. What's that gonna do? We can do a single color. So if I want it to be all magenta and drive our eyes nuts, you could do that. Whoa, you can't even see that. Maybe black would be better for that, but so it's not a raster image. It's not an image at all. It's a series of points, and each point has its own color. So that's why it's really neat. When I went to my section view here, I'm only cutting. My section view has a very small view plane. You can see it's clipping at only 2 feet. If I clipped it at like 20 feet, it would be pretty much illegible. But what's happening here is I'm only seeing a section of points, right? I'm only seeing a small section of points. So that's a real easy way to be able to look through some of this information. Let's see. So good question. From DC, phenomenal video. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Let's see. Thankfully, I have a large corporate network with accelerators to make large projects much faster. Yes, if you're processing the scans yourself, you are. What's great about this is using their app, using Drone Deploy, and I'm sure there's others out there, you're not doing any of the processing. It's doing all the processing for you, and all you're doing is grabbing the point cloud. Like, if you want to bring the LAS files down, then you do have to bring them into Recap, import the files, export, all that good stuff. Neil just asked, do you think you can upload interior photos to Drone Deploy? Yes. So again, I've only been in Drone Deploy for a little while, but it does also handle spherical photos, so 360 photos. You can do walkthroughs. It keeps all of that. I have not tried an interior map yet, and I don't know if it works like that. But you do have. Let me just show you guys real quick. If you're not using the app to input your data, because you can just use the app, right? You can if you had a laptop or a drone that handles it, you can use the app. But if I go to upload, what you'll see is there are different types of uploads. So there's a mapper model. There's a vertical, which is kind of cool. It's a map, but you can look at you can basically do a facade inspection using it. There's reports, just handles images. There's videos, panoramas. You can do it for the inside, and then 360 videos. I don't honestly know if you can do a interior space and it does the mapping like the photogrammetry like a Recap would. Reggie just said, awesome, thanks. Awesome, Reggie. I used to use Cyclone to model point clouds. This is very cool. Yes, right. You don't need a $125,000 scanner anymore. Depending on what you were doing, and that's the whole point here is depending on what you need them for. And that, when we show when we show this to people, the first thing they ask is how accurate is it? And obviously it depends on how accurate your photos are, but it also depends on what you actually are using them for. For most of what I'd be using this for, I don't think it needs to be that accurate, right? But it could be if you needed it to be. So it'll never be as accurate as a laser scan, as far as I know, but it's pretty accurate. If the drone has a thermal camera, can we check air water leaks? Yeah, I would assume that's actually a good point, Ruben. So I don't know. I don't think it would build a model from it, but you could definitely, fly around and take pictures using that. So I don't know if it would. Maybe it would try to stitch those together. I don't know. I don't know if it would. That'd be kind of interesting. All right, sweet, cool. So that's Drone Deploy, and drones and Revit and how they all interact together. So again, just to sort of recap, and feel free to ask any more questions if you have them. And I'll post any links. I'll post all the links to stuff I mentioned in the description of the video below, as well as on the blog afterwards. So check out therevitkid.com. So again, this right here, this is the Mavic Air. So it's actually 2 years old, and I bought the Fly More package. Again, I'll put a link to it. There's lots out there now. There's the Mavic Mini. The difference, you can look at what the differences are, the cameras, the ability to fly. If you're really interested in drone deploy and you want to use the map missions, then you definitely want to look at their site and look at the drones that they support, because as I mentioned before, I can upload photos and stuff, but I cannot fly this drone using drone deploy. And then Drone Deploy is the name of the app that I was talking about. It's web-based as well as iPhone, iPad, Android, all that good stuff. And of course, flying the mission, taking the photos, uploading it to Drone Deploy, manipulating the map, exporting it, and bringing it into Revit, and doing whatever you want with it is the process. Super cool, super fun. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm just checking real quick to see if there's any more questions. Joseph Buchek said, "This is unbelievably awesome." Good. That's again, my goal tonight was to introduce you to this, because I'm super pumped and excited about it. I think it's really cool, and I know if I am, then there must be some people out there like me who are super pumped and excited about it. I'm sure you'll be seeing more of this in the future as I dive deeper into it, and as that project develops and I do more scans and stuff. But I hope this was helpful. John just asked, curious, when the drone takes pictures, is it moving or does it pause for each? So there's a couple different ways you could do it. For the automated flights, you could set a mile per hour that it flies at, and I believe it's taking pictures the whole time. I noticed when I was doing the manual flight, so I had the pictures every 2 seconds happening. For the most part, if I flew at a steady pace, looking down, let's say at like 65 degrees, it was pretty good. The only time I saw blurriness is when I did rotations like this. And so those photos you just either scrap, or you upload them, they scrap them anyways, because they're not very good. But you could always just scrap the photos. But I believe at 200 feet, if you were just flying at a couple miles per hour, I don't think you need to stop to take the photos. Revit Cat, what's up, man? Great stuff, of course. Guatemala, hey, Juan Carlos, what's up? All right. Last but not least, one more question, and then we'll wrap it up. Ernesto asked, what does being a licensed drone person entail? Again, it's not, I don't think it's called a license. I think it's just a certification. I'll look it up and I'll post a link to it. It's the section 107, I think. And really it's just, it's a minor piece, I believe, of like what a pilot would take for a test. And it's really just to understand specific things, mostly to understand how to read aeronautical maps, so that you're not flying where you're not supposed to. Another thing is there is an app by the FAA called Before You Fly, I think. I'll post a link to that. And you should always check that, regardless of recreational or commercial use for your drone. It'll zoom into where you are, or the location you're going to, and it'll let you know what restrictions there may be in that area. So definitely a little drone tip there. And ACAD just mentioned, you're supposed to have a license for drone when you're using it over a certain weight or commercial. And there are some different regulations that came into play this year that are a little more relaxed for it, but you still do need to get that drone license, which I think is just a certificate. I don't know. For some reason, I don't like calling it a license, but maybe it is license, whatever. They added a part to the commercial license. All right. And stay out of the way of real pilots. Yes. So awesome. Thank you guys so much. Feel free to reach out if you want to chat more about this. Again, you can find me on Twitter at the Revit Kid. Feel free to email me. Check me out on the blog. And I'll see you guys next week. This has been phenomenal. You guys are amazing. I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed talking about it. And I'll see you all next week. Love you guys. I'll talk to you soon.